Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and also the existence of the Emancipation Proclamation. No matter what community or groups they applied to originally, they actually stand for every living being in America, with the exception in regards to people that have come here from different lands and obtained their citizenship or their existence in America lawfully and legally upon the guidelines of coming here and the system that takes place. This covers them too. And technically, I feel, and many others do, that these guidelines and boundaries and set of rules and regulations are fit for most of the people in the world. Every living being in the world, and, without borders. The purpose of this video is to explain Title 18 USC in layman's terms, to the best that I can explain them. They've worked for me, and a lot of people should know about these things because there's a circumstance where there's something called a straw man. I think that's like a slang word, or for ens legis persona, which means a created persona, which has to do with a capital letter name. And that gets deep. That's another circumstance and a subject. But now, as a private individual, not acting in commerce, and living with your own identity and independence in the flesh and blood, and not in administrative terms, these are where this set of rules and regulations and guidelines apply to your life and the lives of everyone else, including that of state agents and government agents, which is also law enforcement, judges, state's attorneys, senators, presidents. Okay, so the Title 18 United States Code, it can protect your freedom, liberty, and justice as Americans. And I'm going to read the exact printout on the Title 18 right now, which is Section 241 and 242. I'm just going to read right the way it printed out. So, at the top it starts by deprivation of rights under color of law. I'm reading right from the document. Summary. Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for a person acting under color of any law to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States. For the purpose of Section 242, acts under the color of law include acts not only done by federal, state, or local officials within their lawful authority, but also acts done beyond the bounds of that official's lawful authority if the acts are done while the official is purporting to or pretending to act in the performance of his or her official duties. Okay, basically this says, while they're acting as police officers or judges or state attorneys. Okay. Persons acting under color of law within the meaning of this statute include police officers, prison guards, and other law enforcement officials, as well as judges, care providers in public health facilities, and others who are acting as public officials. It is not necessary that the crime be motivated by animus towards the race, color, religion, sex, handicap, family status, or national origin of the victim. I personally have to look up animus. The offense is punishable by a range of imprisonment up to a life term or the death penalty, depending on the circumstances of the crime and the resulting injury, if any. And in my opinion and many others, injury can go beyond physical injury and mean life incapacitation and derailment, mental incapacitation and complications. Okay, so here, Title 18 USC Section 242. Whoever, under color of any law, statute, or ordinance, regulation, or custom, willingly subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And if bodily injury results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years, or for life, or both, or may be sentenced to death. Okay, so, this is pretty serious. Kidnapping falls under the category of when cops take you away for like a piece of plastic license. And I'm just going to interject, and you have to understand something. As a living being, we cannot be properties because we are given the same gift of life as anybody else. You have the breath of life, you have, the ability to function to a degree of biological, purpose. And the only way that jurisdiction and authority could be assumed over you is if you violate a circumstance where you create a victim, then you fall under the downside of this category. Okay? And what has happened is I have heard that our last names were copyrighted, and every time we use our name in fullness and accept and sign documents where the capital letter name is displayed, an example, a straw man name, we are agreeing to jurisdiction and actually relinquishing our rights to become property. We're giving over our rights to become property of the state. And this is how a policeman can just say, okay, I think you look suspicious, I'm going to stop you, I'm going to waste your time, I'm going to put you in handcuffs, I'm going to take you away even though you didn't do nothing because my ego is conflicting with yours and I can't control my emotions and composure. And, that's basically where I'm coming from. I don't have the governmental problems that a lot of other people have when they conduct commerce and have businesses. My problems have arisen from the street level where cops are operating and assuming jurisdiction and coming into our lives. So that's where I learned about this, and I believe this saved my life. Okay, under the Constitution. Okay, so a summary to that, what I read, it says conspiracy against rights. Okay, section. Okay, wait a second. Conspiracy against rights. Okay, so section 242 is the deprivation of rights under color of law. Okay, section 241 is a conspiracy against rights. Okay, here's where it gets good. Okay, because section 241 of Title 18 is the Civil Rights Conspiracy Statute. Section 241 makes it unlawful for two or more persons to agree together to injure, threaten, or intimidate a person in any state, territory, or district in the free exercise of enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him or her by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his or her having exercised the same. Okay, which is saying that a policeman can't get together with a state's attorney and can't get together with a judge and they all agree, you know what, to our advantage, we're going to say that, if you didn't renew your piece of plastic license, we get to stop you on the road, okay, put you in handcuffs, take you away, put you in jail, call a tow company to steal your car for us, okay, and then keep you in jail while your life goes down the tubes, and we get to threaten you, take your clothes off, frisk you, okay, and then keep you from communicating with your family and scare the crap out of you, make you eat crappy food, okay, and keep you from fresh air and fresh water and sunlight, and put you around people that have hurt people for a piece of plastic license. Okay, this is saying that they can't just get together and do that, because what has happened is they have threatened us to the point where we don't have unity. Okay, and this is where the First Amendment and the Second Amendment come in too. And we can't protect ourselves because they have a number of people. So, the same thing they have done is if you got together with your friends and everybody owned all the houses on one block, and then all of a sudden you put a fence around that block and says, okay, when you come in here, we're the bosses, and whatever we decide goes. Okay, this is like the movie Braveheart, where, in the beginning, what happened to his wife. That's like the extreme of what's going on and where it's leading to with this when they get together and just decide that they could do something when you didn't create a victim. Yeah, I'm passionate and heated about this because it's disgusting. Okay, let me continue reading. Unlike most conspiracy statutes, Section 241 does not require that one of the conspirators commit an overt act prior to the conspiracy becoming a crime. So technically, just knowing that they do this means that if it hasn't happened to you, you could have a say and strike them down from their pedestal of assumed jurisdiction and authority. Which means that as soon as a policeman comes into my life and presents himself for whatever circumstance, as long as I didn't commit a crime and I'm not hurting anybody, there's not a properly filed and processed form or complaint against me with witness and evidence and proof, if a cop just comes out of the blue and approaches you, you have a right to say, well, hold on there. Section 241 and 242 of the Title USC Title 18, I reserve my rights without prejudice, and you need to get the heck away from me. Okay, that's basically what you could say. And if they continue to harass you or be in your life or detain you, they are violating these. And here again, punishable by law. Range of imprisonment for up to a life term or the death penalty, depending on the circumstance of the crime and the resulting injury, if any. Because it is a crime. And, I just want to say that Americans have learned a system of morals and respect for each other in the past. Okay, I'd say basically outside of the cops and the judges and state's attorneys. And I don't hate them all, but they're corrupt, okay, and they need reform. But in the past, they're the ones that are violating more. Because yes, there are people that commit crimes and hurt others, but the American people have learned to live with a set of rules for each other where we respect each other and we don't do these things because we know what good life could be had by committing to this code of ethics amongst each other and working together to create a life and gain independence and comforts in life and amenities. So, technically, foreign policies that have come in here and been promoted through people that have been elected, into our government and agencies, state, city, county, and national, have promoted the habits of their own people, okay, which is conflicting with the American way of life because they don't assume how we live, and it's corrupted our system. And on top of that, the same cops, judges, and attorneys, they've used that to their advantage because they're capitalizing on it all along while they have secured their Title 18 rights and the constitutional rights and all that above us without letting us have the information. So my analogy is it's a Rubik's Cube, okay, and it started off solved. And then they mixed it up and then pulled it apart and scattered the pieces all over. So to really affirm your rights and affirm your standing in life in America, you have to go to all these different places and collect the pieces, put it together, and then figure out how to shift and change it so it makes sense. And, that's unfair. The Constitution has rules and regulations that, says they're not allowed to do that, but they've made it so complicated that the average person gets exhausted because their life is too full. So it's crazy. So, okay, let me continue with 241. Okay, the offenses are punishable by a range of imprisonment for up to a life term or death penalty, depending on the circumstance of the crime and the resulting injury, if any. Okay, now I read the summary of 241, so now let me actually read the 241. Okay, I know it's confusing. I know I'm not in order for everything, and there's other things I'm going to talk about too, but, it's all information. This makes it a lot easier than going and finding it yourself. I had to find out the hard way. Okay, Title 18, United States Code, Section 241. If two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise of enjoyment or any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or her by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same. Which means that, okay, a cop can't say, okay, my constitutional right says I can come and screw with you. And a state's attorney can't say, okay, because of the Constitution, I have the right to file a charge because that's my liberty. And a judge can't say, okay, because of the Constitution, I have a right to just decide you're guilty. So that all falls into play. These are very important perspectives to look at because it's a double-edged sword. And what they've done is they've tried to cut through our communities to open us up and bleed us out from blood, sweat, tears, and money and effort. And in turn, they're cutting themselves, because if you really realize and read and do the research to get this information here, and then do your own paperwork to affirm these things, you will go on record as somebody who knows their rights. And there's another point I'm going to get to, too. Okay. Now, the conclusion is they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years, or for life, or both, or may be sentenced to death. Okay, yeah, so a lot of cops would be dead already. A lot of state's attorneys would be dead already. A lot of judges would be dead already. Okay, but people don't stand up. Okay, and here's another problem now. Anybody that tries to signify or affirm these rights for themselves, okay, and display that, has been labeled as a sovereign citizen. Okay, now this is a serious accusation. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you something here. Let me explain the definition of a sovereign. A sovereign is a being that has their own choice and idea of God, and they act under that. Okay, so like as a sovereign, God put me here. I answer only to God. Okay, and I can say this because I don't commit crimes where people get hurt or injured or deprived. Okay, so you can be a sovereign if you act in this manner and you affirm that your higher power and ruling power over you is God. Okay, that's a sovereign. A citizen is a being that actually becomes property and is under contract or unchallenged jurisdiction of any state or government or entity for that matter. So when you sign your license and you pay for your driver's license or your birth certificate, or your social security card, and you use that name, what you're doing is you've signed a contract to give up your rights and be guided and judged and assessed under that essential standing that you are a piece of property and that you have to answer to the government or state, or in this case, which is extended to law enforcement, and a law enforcement officer, which is actually a sovereign person that's putting on a costume as a citizen and acting on behalf of judges and state's attorneys, okay, to violate your rights, and then they get protected as a sovereign, but they're acting as a citizen, feeling they're justified to come into your life and screw with you, okay? And no, I'm not a cop hater. They shouldn't defund the police, but, they need reform. I'll say it again. They need reform. And it needs to go right straight up to the state's attorneys. The state's attorneys are some of the worst acting Americans, okay? And half of the judges, I'll say half of the judges follow suit, okay? And whether it's their day at work or not, it doesn't matter because they're human beings and we all get tired from monotony of the same job. So they're not allowed to technically just say, okay, business as usual, I'm just doing my job, okay? If they can't handle it, you should quit. I'm trying not to curse. Okay, so again, with social and community responsibility, that must be acknowledged to coexist in harmony with each other as our fellow man, asterisk, and woman. Okay, so if we have a social contract together in unity that we're going to work together and not violate each other for personal gain, we could actually affirm these rights, okay, and take ourselves out of the context of being property and, choose when we want to be a citizen and participate, okay, in things, and act as sovereigns, which is the best way to go, because would you rather be bounded and guided and judged by God of your choice, or would you rather be bounded, guided, and judged by another man or woman wearing a monkey suit that's wanting to make money and dealing with thousands and millions of people throughout the year, looking at you as just a number? And this is a big issue. So you can't call somebody a sovereign citizen. And I made a video that debunked the term sovereign citizen with these circumstances, points stuff out. And, lo and behold, now Wikipedia has been, an ad for Wikipedia has been glued to my channel page, okay, for that video, saying that, there's possible misinformation on there, and that a sovereign citizen is basically a constitutionalist, which is basically an American terrorist. So technically a lawsuit should be filed against Wikipedia for that, because that's BS. They're actually committing slander and endangering people's lives, by forcing them to, take on a persona that is only going to, invite threats. Okay? There's no, a sovereign citizen only applies to, state and government agents. Okay, so it's a bunch of BS. So if somebody calls themselves a sovereign or a constitutionalist, they're not in the wrong and they're not bad people, okay? They're trying to affirm the rights of America, so this way our future generations don't have to keep living in oppression on a route to socialized communism and a dictatorship, which is like fascism with the way the cops and state's attorneys and judges act. It's disgusting. Okay, so there's something else here too. Now, the 10th Amendment. Okay, well, let me backtrack. The United States Code, okay, is something that all government agencies follow. Okay, it's their code. Okay, and it's the general certification of the laws of the United States. Okay, that's what the USC is. The general certification of the laws of the United States. And guess what? This is published and put out by the Law Revision Council of the U.S. House of Representatives. Okay, now that's basically the Senate and Washington and the Supreme Court all working together, I believe, to come up with laws that are good for people. And you know what? They're not going to make bad laws because they fall under the same category. They are just people too. So, they put out these laws which are very good and these guidelines which are very good. It's just that they prevent the general average common person in layman terms, to act and benefit from these things because it takes such an effort. Like, again, I'll use the Rubik's Cube analogy. Okay, but anyway, so, the U.S. House of Representatives puts out this code, okay, and you can use it too as an American. A natural, private American being, man or woman, in living flesh and flowing blood. Remember that. And you travel. Maybe you don't. Okay. And, this applies to the 10th Amendment, or let me see, actually, I put that in the middle here because federalism, state sovereignty, and the Constitution. Okay, now that is the basis and limits of congressional power extending to law enforcement and its agents. Okay, so here you go, and this is right out of the book here. These terms, right? Federalism, state sovereignty, and the Constitution. The basis and limits of congressional power extending to law enforcement and its agents. Okay, so that means law enforcement and its agents have been granted the some of the congressional power of the House of Representatives. Okay, now let me double over, and then we're going to get back to this. Okay, the 10th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Okay, here is how it is written. Powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Okay, now the term respectively is in there, okay, and it's reserved to the states respectively with circumstance and with just and good use, okay, for goodness and positivity, not for oppression or communism or socialism or tyranny or fascism or dictation. Okay, so it's reserved to the states respectively, comma, or to the people. Okay, which means that at any time, if a natural person, private American, living flesh and flowing blood, is feeling like they're violated and they have the proof and circumstance to prove it, they can use the exact same power, okay, of the Constitution, okay, to prohibit or give power to the states, respectively. So there's the double-edged sword that they've used against us. Okay, so if you take out some of that, okay, power is not delegated to the U.S. by the Constitution or prohibited to it, excuse me, by the state or to the people. Okay, so the people have the same power as a state. Now, and you can figure this, like, if a state was broken down and everybody was dismissed to the point and there was one single person left, okay, in office, that is a people. And they still have that same power signified under this. So that is the same as a representation of being you or I as a singular person with this exact same power. Okay, so now what they've done is the single person has gathered up, and established a group of people to have this power. Okay, so let's follow the system. Let's follow the templates. A single person fighting for their rights and affirming all this, okay, can gather up a group of people, okay, and create a state within a state. Okay, and this is the big fear that the states have, state governments have, and this is why they've come up with the label sovereign citizen, because they don't want people to realize that they don't have any more power than you do. It's just that they have cops roaming around the streets and they have guns, and every time there's a natural disaster or some kind of epidemic, they bring out the military to stand with their guns. And we all know that most of the cops' families and the military families, they're us. So it's just a matter of time that if something bad gets to the point where people are really satisfied and actually see the oppression going on, that, in my opinion, there'll be a shift. And that's what a civil war is about. Am I promoting anything? No, I'm just stating on a plateau the circumstances of our life that we're involved in here. And, it's disgusting. The whole circumstance is disgusting. So, basically, the United States Code is great, okay? And, and you could look on the documents and court forms and rules and regulations, and you can go in Black's Law Dictionary, any law dictionary, and it always references the United States Code, okay? In your court documents, the United States Code. code. So, okay, why can't we have this same piece of literature and says, wait a second, Judge, wait a second, Mr. Policeman, wait a second, Mr. State's Attorney. Okay, and that's what people are doing now, and they're being falsely labeled as constitutionalists and sovereign citizens, which gets the public alarmed because there was a couple idiots that really committed heinous acts because they were nutbags. They were not righteous to begin with. And if you'd like to watch the other video on debunking sovereign citizen, I'll explain a little bit about that, and like about the bonds, how the court system works a little bit, what your limitations are, and the fact that, the money that's in the state and governments, may be your money, but it's not for you to use like that. But guess what? As a double standard, the judges, state's attorneys, and cops are using it because they're benefiting from it, and they're paying all themselves off and protecting each other with these same groups of laws and guidelines. So, I hope I clarified some stuff today. I hope I enlightened you. I hope that I made you aware that you really do have such a privilege to be in this great country. And if you don't take into consideration all these things that I'm saying, and thousands, if not millions of other people at this point are saying, you're just going to go along with the propaganda and say, oh, America's bad. And then get the heck out of here, dude. Okay? Because we want people that are responsible, that are going to uphold our country for the integrity that it has had. And we haven't lost that. It's just that we've been smokescreened by all this rubbish. And at the end of the day, it's such a great privilege and blessing to be here. And I hope that you can take the responsibility to and inform yourself. I mean, it's nearly impossible because anybody with a law degree has started as a child, basically, or adolescent, and they go through all these, schooling and academic courses to learn things. And it's nearly impossible, and the government banks on that too. When I say the government, the people that are directly in our faces from the government are most of the time the cops. So, you should get together with people and realize that everybody has a specialized area, just like they do, okay? And, you know this amount of information. Maybe your neighbor or family member or a friend knows something on this perspective of what we're talking about with this information. And when you work together, you can move mountains and defend yourself from giants. And that's what this is all about. So from the land of the brave, home of the free, promoting freedom, liberty, and justice for all. Okay, have a great day. God bless you all.